What's up, movie lovers? I'm Mike, and this is Gotta Love Them Movies. You guys, welcome back to Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. I'm your host, Mr. Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. And you guys, today is a beautiful Tuesday morning. It is crisp. It is cold, which is why I'm wearing my Bugs Bunny hoodie. In fact, here in New York, it is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That is exactly 0 degrees Celsius if you're living in a country that does not use Fahrenheit, which I'm pretty sure the United States is the only country in the world that uses the non-metric system. And speaking of metric systems, helping me talk about how's that for a segue? Helping me talk about all things movies and movie news today. Please put your hands together for a very good friend of mine, an improviser, a videographer, a photographer, my personal photographer. You guys, put your hands together for Mr. Giancarlo Osaben. Oh, I totally screwed up your last name. Yay! Osaben Kenobi.
Like, it happens. I'm used to it at this point. You're doing great.
Giancarlo, welcome to the show. You are a massive movie fan. I dare say maybe even a little bit more than myself.
I'm definitely a big old nerd. It's only gotten worse as I've gotten older.
Well,
but I love
congratulations. For all of our viewers out there, let us know, who are you and like what is it that you do? What qualifies you to sit around and chat movies for a while?
I've been watching movies since as long as I can remember. I think the first movie I ever saw in theaters when I was a tiny little baby was Batman Returns. And I've just fallen down that hole ever since. I love movies. They're amazing. And I love how they can make people feel. They make me feel a lot of things. And I love watching them because of that.
Oh, man. Like, I think that's one of the things that, excuse me, that really gets me into like the story, like the visual storytelling aspect. And I've talked about this a lot on the show before, is that I emotionally connect with the stories and specifically the characters so hard that I put myself in their shoes. So when they're having this adventure, when the Avengers are time traveling to stop Thanos, I'm time traveling to stop Thanos. Like, it's so emotionally engaging, and that is the same exact reason that I can't watch scary movies. That fear, that feeling of dread stays with me the same way that the excitement of like stopping Thanos, that stays with me. Indiana Jones flipping his whip and swinging around, like that excitement stays with me. So the excitement of being fearful, I can't do it.
I'm entirely opposite. When I was a kid, I used to watch Aliens like all the time, and my parents would let me watch this, and I would terrify myself. I would watch it before going to sleep, and I'd be terrified. I actually, like the past maybe 2 weeks, I've been like oddly just like binging horror movies on like Netflix and the other streaming apps because I find them weirdly comforting. There's like something kind of cult classic-y about horror movies that the other genres can't really touch because they can be terrible or they can be amazing, and they provoke such a audible like reaction out of people.
Oh man, yes.
I
know exactly what you're talking about. And continuing on this line of talking about all things movies and movie news, guys, we've got a lot of stuff to cover today. So without further ado, I need to tell you how to subscribe to the YouTube page. It's pretty simple. Go over to youtube.com, type in Gotta Love Them Movies. When you get there, you're going to see a little red box in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead and click on that box. What clicking on that box does is it helps us to widen our subscriber base. And yes, I understand you may be watching this on Facebook Live right now, but it's still important to go over to YouTube and click that subscriber button, because with the more subscribers we get, the more viewed content the channel gets. And with the more viewed content the channel gets, I get to earn ad revenue making this show my full-time job. So I very much appreciate you going over and doing that. And as well, as soon as we hit 1,000 subscribers, this show will be moving from Facebook to YouTube. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. All right, guys, with all of that done and out of the way, Usually now is the time that we go and take some movie news. However, late last night I had an email drop into to my email bank. I don't like what else do you refer to it as? The email bank. So if you want to get an email on the show, if you have a question, if you have a comment, if there's anything specifically that you want to discuss, go ahead and send me an email at where's it over here? Gotta love them movies at gmail.com. Gotta love them movies at gmail.com. Let me know what you want to talk about and we will discuss it here on the show. So now it's time to open up the Gotta Love Them Movies mailbag. All right, you guys, and with that, our first and only email of the day comes to us from William in Reno. He lives in Reno, Nevada, and William says, now I've modified this slightly, so there was more content in the email, but I cut it down a little bit. William says, I've seen the profit margin on movie theaters. They get almost nothing from the movie ticket, and almost all of the revenue comes from concession sales. This is true. Even excuse me, I'm having a hard time reading this morning. Even the movie special merch, which gets a minuscule return, which is only 5 cents worth of popcorn. Excuse me, which is why 5 cents worth of popcorn costs $7. I once paid $9 for a 64-ounce soda. I'm pretty sure I've paid the same, and they only had Sprite. A trip out to the movie theaters costs $100, and you can get a lot more movies for that $100 through HBO Max. Now, of course, William is referring to the HBO Max announcement that they made last weekend about 17 movies. HBO Max is taking 17 movies. They're basically their entire slate for the 2021 year, and they're dropping them all on Facebook Max simultaneously, corresponding with their release in cinemas. Now, if you do the math, that is one movie every 3 weeks, starting with Wonder Woman 1984 coming out on Christmas Day this year, and just under 3 weeks from now. HBO Max will be dropping a brand new film, both in theaters and on HBO Max, the same day simultaneously for your viewing pleasure. Now, William makes a great point here. A trip out to the theater can cost upwards of $100. I myself have been on the receiving end, the spending end of this, multiple times. Now, granted, I'm just one person, right? I don't have a family, but I do have friends, and sometimes for a big movie, I remember for Star Wars, The Force Awakens. If you were alive when Star Wars, The Force Awakens came out, you remember how mammoth, monumental of a moment that was. So when I dropped $150 for 6 tickets so that all my friends and we could all come together and watch this incredible film, I didn't think twice. I didn't even blink. In fact, it was so monumental. I remember exactly where I was when I purchased those tickets. I was in London. I was in my hotel room in London because, again, flight attendant, right? So I was in my hotel room in London, and the internet connection was so bad, and the tickets were dropping at a very specific time, and I knew everybody in the entire planet was going to, hop on their phones and try to, procure their own tickets. So with the internet service being bad, I ran down to the lobby and asked if there were any other types of computers or a business center or something that I could use to buy tickets. And the guy said, well, just do it on your phone. And I'm like, you don't understand. This is Star Wars. And he's like, so? And I'm like, what do you mean so? It was huge. Anyway, I understand William's point about, for the consumer, this is actually kind of a great opportunity. If all you want is to just watch the movie and be done with it and wipe your hands of it, HBO Max dropping their entire film slate on HBO Max, or rather, excuse me, Warner Brothers dropping their entire film slate onto HBO Max is perfect for the casual movie viewer. But if you're like me, and Giancarlo, I'm going to go ahead and put some words in your mouth. If you're anything like Giancarlo, this is devastating to the industry. This is devastating to the people like us who really cherish the film experience of going out to the movies. And that's the whole thing. It's an experience. You go to the theater. It's an event. You get even if you do it all the time. Like I don't know about you, Giancarlo. I signed up for AMC A-List where I could watch up to 3 movies every single week for $25 a month. It was mwah.
Yeah.
You go, you get your popcorn. It was beautiful. Tell me about your what are your thoughts here?
I never opted in for one of those services, but I think it's so interesting that it's so surreal, especially to think about now that we're dealing with all this coronavirus stuff. That like I think back to MoviePass and how huge that was, and how exactly how you're saying all these theaters have their kind of subscription service where you can go to X amount of movies a month and just have a movie going experience that's not as costly. I don't know. It's so weird for me personally because I feel like I do end up going to the movies, but more often than not, and maybe this is just something I can really take advantage of here in the city in New York. I tend to go for those matinees just because it is so costly to go to the, and it's so easy to cut it down. That something like HBO Max putting out these big movies on there. Of course, it's a great deal for people who want to watch these movies. If all you have to do is have this one streaming service. It worries me that this could be the future of it, where now we've already seen this happening for a while now, but everybody now has their own streaming service versus like, I think how Netflix used to feel, where it was like Netflix had a wealth of content. Now everybody's going to have their own streaming service. And it's worked for some. I guess Disney Plus and HBO Max are kind of the 2 big ones. But it's like it is going to impact everything tremendously moving forward. And you don't want to lose the movie experience on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on the show yesterday, and like you and I were talking before the show started, I don't think that movie theaters are ever completely going to go away. You know, we're social creatures. We need we need experiences. We need things to go outside of our homes and do. That's just human nature. So I don't think the movie theater experience will ever completely go away. But for the casual movie viewer, for somebody who wants the Tom and Jerry movie. Tom and Jerry movie is coming out. It looks like a pretty fun family movie. And if you want to take your entire family, let's just say that, standard, mom, dad, 2 kids, right? You want to take your whole family to go out and see the movies. William makes a great point. You're going to spend at least $100, especially if you live in New York. Like that's $100 just in movie ticket sales, and then you have your concessions on top of that.
You have all these other things that going, and I think we were talking about this earlier. The whole movie experience is usually it's kind of a stepping stone to something else, whether that's being able to kind of be more social and talk about movies, whether you go out to eat after seeing a movie. It gets people out. It gives them an activity to do, which people are definitely going to want to do once we're kind of past coronavirus. But it's one of those industries that, especially this year, watching with everything going on, it's going to have to change. And it's really interesting to just watch it. It's been interesting looking at this moment right here with HBO Max and this announcement, and how it's exciting for a lot of people, but it's the backlash that started to come out has been also very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we're just going to have to keep our eye on and see how this progresses, because if classic improv trope, if this is true, what else is true, I have a strong feeling Disney's going to jump on board with this. Paramount's going to jump on board with this. It's the whole landscape is about to change. The whole landscape is about to change. But anyway, guys, big question is, what are your thoughts? How do you think this is going to change the landscape? Are you actually looking forward to seeing these movies on HBO Max? Or do you think this is devastating for the film, or for the for the film industry, but also for the movie theater industry? What are your personal thoughts? Is there something we're not taking into consideration here? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, now it's time to take a little bit of movie news.
What? What?
All right, guys, there is some breaking news. Some of this stuff broke yesterday. Some of it broke last night. Some of it is this morning. And so let's just talk about some of that here and now. First and foremost, oh boy, and we touched on this yesterday. We kind of touched on this yesterday, just a little bit. It would appear Legendary Pictures, co-financers, in fact, the bulk majority financiers of both Dune, the film Dune, and Godzilla vs. Kong, they're not happy with Warner Brothers. They're not happy with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, just before they made their big announcement last Thursday, called Legendary up on the phone. Their conversation went something a little like this. Hey, Legendary? Yeah, it's Warner Brothers over here. We're thinking about dropping all of our movies. In fact, some of the movies that you have helped us make, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and drop them on HBO Max. Okay, love you, bye! Click. Legendary looks at their watch and says, it's 10 o'clock. And then at 10:30, I'm just making up numbers. That's when HBO Max made their big announcement. Woof. They gave Legendary a 30-minute heads up before they told the rest of the world. And we'll touch on other aspects of this same kind of dynamic in our next story. I'm having trouble with my words this morning, you guys. Maybe it's because I haven't had enough seltzer. Delicious seltzer. But yeah, Legendary Pictures is not happy with Warner Brothers. In fact, one of their biggest gripes here, let's jump into this article from Variety. One of their biggest gripes is that, first of all, Legendary financed a significant portion of the movie Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, which have massive price tags. But right here in the middle of the article, sources familiar, oh man, how does this not work? There we go. Sources familiar with the situation say the top brass over at Legendary are trying to have conversations with Warner Brothers regarding its upcoming films. Legendary and Warner Brothers have frequently collaborated on a whole bunch of movies, blah, 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 blah. One possibility, jumping to the middle of the article here, one possibility is that Warner Brothers would buy the films outright from Legendary. Sorry, I skipped a part. Yes, that's huge too. Legendary is hoping to first negotiate a more generous deal, but isn't taking legal action off the table should the two companies fail to come to a compromise. So here's the thing. Legendary wants to work all of this out. Part of Legendary's frustration, let me highlight this for you. Part of Legendary's frustration is that despite largely bankrolling Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, the production company, that's Legendary, didn't have much of a say in how its films would be released. Moreover, the company, Legendary, felt that Warner Brothers wasn't being transparent with its intentions. Months ago, Netflix had discussed a possible sale of Godzilla vs. Kong for a hefty $250 million. In a world, you guys, in a world where Tenet only made $350 million, and that was a struggle. That was a struggle to make $350 million at the box office. A $250 million price tag from Netflix? I mean, I'm no financial expert here, but that doesn't sound like a bad option. But Warner Brothers, they blocked the deal. They wouldn't let them do it. They wouldn't let Legendary do this. So now Legendary has been backed into a corner, you guys. Legendary has been backed into a corner. They have no leverage. Warner Brothers has not been transparent with what their plans are. And so this is where it's possible. Legendary may end up filing a lawsuit against Warner Brothers, and they've been working together for a long time. Giancarlo, I think there's a lot of ripple effects to come out of this situation. What are your thoughts? Where do you see this going?
It's crazy. It's crazy because this has to happen. It's not like there's really two options here. Either they figure out something to do with the movie right now, or they sit on it. And when you think about how these giant movies operate, along with all the other companies that release giant blockbuster movies, there's really only so many dates in the year where they can really put these projects in order to be able to maximize their profits that they're going to make by releasing them at a certain time. And specifically looking at like Dune and Godzilla versus Kong, like Dune's a movie that I think I'm terribly excited to see on the big screen, just because I'm a fan of those filmmakers. And I know it's going to be an amazing looking film, never mind that it's like super crazy science fiction, which is always a plus for me. And then on the other end, you have Godzilla versus Kong, which is, I will eat it up just because it's Godzilla.
It's a pure popcorn fest.
Exactly. It's the type of movie that begs to be seen on the big screen because it's just pure spectacle. I don't know. It's so insane to see. You can see how this is not, you can understand why the people who made these movies are upset. You can understand why the production companies are upset. I can kind of understand why they're throwing this on HBO, just because what else do we do? If they were to not release these movies and just kind of sit on them until coronavirus is over, like where would they plug them in and how would that shift everything further forward? I keep thinking of like how Marvel does their movies and how they have all these release dates set for like the next 4 to 5 years. And their movies in particular are so kind of sequential that it would literally just shift everything further back. How do you deal with that? And these streaming services have really just kind of found their spot with coronavirus. It's really it's crazy. It's very cool in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's definitely going to change everything moving forward. You can kind of see how everybody.
I mean, you say it's really cool in a lot of ways, which it is. I mean, look at because I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. I remember looking back at the 90s. I remember being a small child. I remember seeing there was some kind of a news article story about something that where like there were this special pair of goggles or glasses that you could wear and that would plug directly into your VCR player. A VCR player. And of course your VCR player had to plug into the cigarette lighter of the car and you could watch movies in your car. That blew my mind. That completely blew my mind. Like that was on every wish list of mine for every Christmas for the next like 10 years. That's exactly what I wanted, to be able to watch movies in the car, especially on long car trips. Now the technology has progressed so far and so fast that now we're going to get some of these massive major blockbuster movies. Like you can be, let's just say, for example, Andy Danish, improviser, sketch writer, voice actor, Andy Danish. He and his girlfriend are currently right now as we speak driving from New York to California. They're moving to Los Angeles as we speak. Mm-hmm. If they happen to be driving over Christmas Day, it is conceivable that Andy Danish could watch Wonder Woman 1984 on his phone in the car as they're driving to California. Think about that for a second. There's not going to be a world premiere. There's not going to be like a big press release event where everybody comes out and rolls out the red carpet for 1984. They're not going to do that realistically. They may do it. If they do, it'll be very, very small. But chances are they won't. And it's conceivable for these massive premieres to come out. This is the cool part of this technology. You could conceivably watch this movie for the very first time. That anybody has seen this movie on your phone in the car. That's a crazy thought.
You know what? It's going to be, that in particular is going to be fun, because I think what they realize is, yes, they may be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit with this movie, which, let's be honest, at this point, it was going to be a big success. I mean, it's a sequel to Wonder Woman that was a big deal and was widely critically well received. Probably the best part of the DC expanded, the new
Agreed.
DC universe.
That and Shazam.
And the movie was going to be a big deal because it looks like it's a lot of fun because it's in the 80s. They're bringing back all these fun people. What they are going to do now, like, it was going to be a huge success, obviously. Is it going to be as much of a success now in terms of profit? I don't know. But everybody will be talking about it on Christmas Day. It's going to be everywhere.
Agreed.
So they'll have that. It's going to build towards something else. How these companies decide to kind of capitalize on that is where it's going to get really interesting. And it's really something we're only going to be able to see as we kind of just move forward.
I agree. Big question is for you guys, what do you think of Legendary's beef with Warner Brothers? Do you think that they have a valid case? Or do you think Warner Brothers, being the distributor, has complete control? They get to do whatever they want without having to consult anyone else. What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know what those are. All right, guys, our next news story for today. We briefly kind of referenced this a little bit. And again, it's piggybacking off the heels of the whole HBO Max situation. But previously we said Legendary is not happy with what Warner Brothers has announced. Well, guess what? Neither is Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan, acclaimed film director, The Dark Knight trilogy, Memento, Inception, The Prestige, Tenet, Dunkirk, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. He is an incredible filmmaker. People love his work. He's the kind of film director that you go out to see the movie, not because John David Washington is starring in it, not because Christian Bale is starring in it, not because Guy Pearce is starring in it, but because Christopher Nolan directed the film. It's his movie. He crafted the story. That's why you go see a Christopher Nolan movie. And he has some very not kind things to say in regards to this. Let's jump into the article here from Deadline. Christopher Nolan, when being interviewed by, I believe it was Entertainment Weekly, they asked him about this whole situation, and he says here, quote, "Some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking that they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find out that they were working for the worst streaming service." Ooh, sucker punch number one. As we scroll down in the article, Nolan said that the Burbank, California lot was dismantling an ideal distribution system between theaters and homes. Quote, "As we speak, they don't even understand what they're losing. Their decision makes no economic sense, and even the most casual Wall Street investor can see the difference between disruption and dysfunction." Ooh, zing, zang. Speaking to ET Online, Entertainment Tonight online, the Tenet at the Tenet DVD press or whatever. It was at a press release for the movie Tenet. Nolan expressed his shock over how Warner Brothers didn't even give their top-tier talent and filmmakers a heads up that the HBO Max theatrical plan was in the works. The 2021 slate, per Nolan, quote, is meant to be out there for the widest possible audiences, and now they're being used as a loss lender for the streaming service, for the fledgling streaming service, as he goes on to clarify, without any consultation. There's a lot of controversy. It's very, 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 very messy, a real bait and switch. And he continues on to kind of like, just say how unsavory the situation is. But holy cannoli, Giancarlo, Christopher Nolan, really, he didn't pull any punches. I guess he could have slammed them a little bit harder, but this is pretty harsh. Speak. What's your knee-jerk reaction?
He's in a tough position because I feel like he's definitely a filmmaker that's built up kind of an allure about his movies that, as you said, they're people go to see them because they're Christopher Nolan movies, and he's kind of navigated that while doing like the franchise movie thing with his Batman movies. But he kind of got screwed in this because I guess his was one of the first big movies from this year that we realized had to kind of get dealt with, whether by pushing it back or not releasing it. So I understand his frustration, his public frustration. But at the same time, it's like people just can't go to the movies right now, and releasing these things in theaters, I don't know. It's a little silly. It's kind of a moot point, I feel like, because we shouldn't be going to see movies in theaters with the way everything's going on. Is he right that he's right that it's kind of crazy that all of this happened just so quickly and suddenly. But he's been kind of stewing in this for a while now because Tenet was supposed to come out a while back. It's interesting. It's interesting looking at this film in particular, just because he's kind of not in the franchise mode of movie making anymore. He's kind of making these one-off projects. And so like this not doing well means something specifically for him, when like Dune not doing well means something very different for them, considering they're banking on a sequel. And like Kong versus Godzilla versus King Kong is also like a nuts. So it's just, this frustration is palpable, but I also don't think it's the best. I don't know. I don't think it looks too good for him.
Yeah, he's caught between a rock and a hard spot. I mean, as you say, like, I put Christopher Nolan in the same category of filmmakers as I do Quentin Tarantino, obviously Spielberg.
So I feel like Quentin Tarantino on kind of the other hand of it, like he would be pissed off if this happened while one of his movies was coming out. But he's also somebody that has shown that he's very interested in how these streaming services are being used and how people will watch movies moving forward with the streaming services in their lives. So I'm curious to see how he would have reacted.
That's true. That's true.
But it's definitely the same allure.
I put him into that category because these are the types of filmmakers that make movies specifically designed for the theatrical experience. Again, I mentioned this on the show yesterday. Try watching The Hateful Eight on an iPhone in the 70 millimeter super ultra widescreen. Like, no, it's not nowhere near the same experience as what it would be on the big screen, and so I understand Tenet was made, and Christopher Nolan's even in a very interesting position where it was built into his contract that he was going to get a certain percentage of, I believe it was 30% of the box office. I may have to somebody fact check me on that. He may have received 30% of the box office, which would have been amazing because Tenet easily could have made $800 million. Easily. It made $350, but in a non-COVID world, easily it could have made $800 million. So look at that percentage of box office and just put that right in Christopher Nolan's bank account. So he also is in a very precarious situation with these remarks. I mean, and here's another thing that very few people are talking about. Disney, Warner Brothers, Netflix, Hulu, all of the streaming services, nobody is releasing their numbers. No, they're not required to. I mean, if you want to talk about box office, how well did a movie do? We kind of gauge that off of box office in terms of popularity and also success, you know? The Invisible Man with Kate and I keep going back to the well of The Invisible Man because it just happened and it's an easy example, but
I legitimately just watched that movie like 2 days ago on HBO Max.
It's a great film. It's good.
It's very effective. I dug it a lot.
It was made on a shoestring budget. It was $7 million to make that film. It made $108 million at the box office. It like 10 decadruple? Is that how you conjugate that? It made over 10 times, well over 10 times like what their production budget was, right? So, shoot, what's my point here? I was making a point. I'll have to rewind the video and see where I was building up towards. The whole point is that, I'm just going to make up a point because I can't remember what I'm saying.
That might have done well because they had this kind of release versus something otherwise. You were talking about
gauging, you can't gauge the success. Oh, okay, so The Invisible Man made $100 million, right? Tenet had the potential to make $800 million. So if you look at, this made 800, but this only made 100, you tend to think this did way better. Well, yeah, it also cost so much more to make this film. It needs to make 800 million. So in terms of success, how are we going to gauge success? What's that going to look like moving forward? Because Disney's not releasing their numbers. HBO Max is not releasing their numbers. Netflix, Hulu, blah, 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 blah. Amazon Prime. Nobody's releasing the success rate of their numbers. Like, what does that look like? How many people are watching it? How many people watch the entire thing? How many people watch half? I don't know. I don't know how you gauge the success of a film when we can't, like, read the box office numbers.
Well, also, how do you gauge this success, especially this year, when you have all these streaming services that, more than ever, because of everything going on, all their like kind of original content that they upload to these things, all of the Netflix original stuff, all of the HBO Max original series, Amazon is another one that has tons of things on there now, both series and movies. How do you gauge those successes? You know, it's interesting that this is obviously becoming so public right now because this is a huge company and a bunch of huge movies. But there's other movies that come out besides these giant blockbusters, but they're the ones that tend to dominate the conversation when it comes to what's making the most money, how is this going to affect the film industry. There's like tons of other movies that have come out this year on these services that don't necessarily get theatrical kind of experience anyway. That it's interesting. We're kind of at this crossroads where, I don't know, the kind of industry has to change because now more than ever it's being forced into kind of streaming services and not being just all about the giant movie making experience and going to theaters.
Now, okay, so I understand we've kind of gotten off topic just a hair, and we've spent a lot of time talking about this already, but going back to the heart of the question or the heart of the article, do you think that it's fair for Christopher Nolan to make these types of comments? Because, I mean, as we already pointed out, he's put into a very precarious situation. He's caught between a rock and a hard spot, right? So would it have been better for him? Would it have been better for everyone had he just kind of said, you know what, HBO Max needs to do what they need to do and put his personal feelings aside? Or do you think he's completely justified in voicing this opinion?
I think we live in a time where it's going to come out anyway now, just because of how kind of we are with social media. Um, no, I think he's justified to feel this way. I mean, the article is Christopher Nolan is upset, but it's not just Christopher Nolan who made this movie. It's hundreds of actors, of people behind the scenes. Um, Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people work on these movies, and they're all banking on it being a success because that helps fund these movies. It's an industry. It's not just one man being upset. Um, it's what's going to go in the papers, obviously, but I think he's justified in his thoughts about this, as are all the other filmmakers whose movies are going to be impacted by this. But it's a we're in a real tough time right now,
I
so
agree.
it's going to hurt. Someone's going to get hurt regardless. There's no kind of clean answer that'll solve everybody's
I
issues
agree.
here.
Question is for you guys. What do you think of Christopher Nolan's comments? Do you think they were justified? Do you think he could have been a little bit kinder? Do you think he should have been a little bit sharper with his comments? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, our next bit of movie news today is not actually movie news. In fact, it has nothing to do with movies at all. I wanted to throw this in here because this was so interesting to me. Yeah, I mean, the Olympics have now declared that breakdancing is an official Olympic sport coming up in the Paris 2024 games. Like I said, this is not movie news. This isn't even really entertainment news. This is more sports news. I think this is wonderful. I think this is genius. I think it's brilliant. I think this is a long time coming. And not just breakdancing, as this article in Deadline goes on to point out. Oh shoot, where was it? I just had it. Yeah, here we go. The Olympics announced on Monday that the competitive dance form will be among the new sports set to debut during the 2024 games. The Olympics website says that breakdancing, skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing will be new categories for the next Summer Olympics. I think that's really cool. It's not just breakdancing, it's breakdancing, skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing. And not only that, I think the even bigger story than this is the article goes on to say, while the announcement surely brought on a range of reactions from excitement to confusion, it wasn't the only Olympics-related news to gain attention. The Olympics also announced that the Paris 2024 Games will feature a historic 100% gender equality in its athlete quotas. There will be exactly 50% female and male participation in the next installment of summer events, surpassing that of Tokyo in the 2020 Olympics. I think this is really cool, man. I think this is something that has been coming for a while. I think the writing was on the wall. I mean, obviously skateboarding, breakdancing, but also sport climbing. That, like, right now I'm getting images of Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2, just like climbing up the mountain, or whatever that thing was in southern Utah. I think that's really cool. And I also love that, like, they're addressing gender equality in the Olympics, which I don't ever remember being a thing before. But I think it's not going to end here. I think this is a good first step because there's further, as we're learning. I don't want to make this about a political anything, but as we keep learning, there aren't just really two genders. It's like gender is very fluid as we're discovering in the world that we live in. So taking this first step of saying we're going to start off, well, I'm putting words in their mouth, I'm paraphrasing, but for them to say we're going to kind of start off by saying we're going to keep it exactly 50-50 men and women, I think that's a great springboard. I think that's a great jumping off place. And then we're not addressing all the big issues right now, but I think that's a great place to start off. And in future installments of the Olympics, we can tend to be a little bit more inclusive in that regard. Giancarlo, what are your thoughts about, like, all these new sports and also, like, the gender equality issue going on?
I think, like you said, it's good if we think of it as like a springboard. There's obviously a lot more action that can be taken, and it's like a real interesting thing to look at, just at the Olympics as a whole kind of cultural kind of phenomenon and kind of as an organization. Considering how long it's run, I don't know. It's such a weird thing to think about, especially just in terms of thinking about the Olympics with everything going on right
Yeah.
now. Uh, there's obviously a lot that can and needs to happen, but I agree. It's a good kind of springboard in lieu of everything. That being said, it is 2024, which it's just crazy to think about. With the actual new sports, I think it's pretty wild and pretty cool. But I have a lot more questions than anything. I have questions about who judges these things. How do they figure that out? How does the need for surfing like affect where they do the Olympics? I have a lot of questions
Oh, I
more than
never thought
anything.
about that.
But
Yeah, like where
like,
Paris doesn't have, they're not, no,
yeah,
France is not known for its surfing.
I have no idea. Maybe there is like some really good coast there where they get real good surfing, but that's such a specific thing where they need such a specific location to kind of do these things. Breakdancing, I think that's awesome. I just wonder what's going to go into like deciding that and the judges and ratings and all that stuff. I think it's awesome. It's like there'll be Olympic medalists for breakdancing and skateboarding. That's pretty
When I
awesome.
first heard this news, the knee jerk reaction that I had was like all the people that were like breaking back in the day, like in the late 70s, early 80s. A lot of them are probably like, really? Now you're doing it? Come on. I
Yeah.
invented this thing. Come on.
Yeah, on some level, of course, that's there. I also imagine it's got to be pretty cool on the flip side of just like, wow, they're finally like this is now finally it's going to be an Olympic sport. Uh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty
It's pretty
awesome.
wild.
You know?
I mean, it's this news has just dropped. I'm sure there's a lot, many more things to discuss and pontificate about and pick apart and scrutinize. But for the here and now, I think this is really cool. I think it's really fun. It's definitely going to get me more interested in watching the Olympics. Is it going to get you more interested in watching the Olympics? And to Giancarlo's point, how do you think that they're going to judge or grade some of these things? Like, how do you grade surfing? How do you grade rock climbing or like sport climbing as they call it? I don't know. What are your thoughts? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know what they are. All right, guys. Our next bit of movie news again is not technically movie news. But again, this is such a charming, heartwarming story. I thought that this was absolutely beautiful, and I had to share it with you guys. Comic Book Resource is reporting that Marvel Comics has a brand new comic out called The Vitals. And it's not a fictional story. It's about real, actual stories from nurses and other healthcare workers on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. To accompany this announcement, Marvel released a short video. It's maybe like a 30-second, 1 minute long video about the kids who are the children of a lot of these healthcare workers and what their experiences are of having their parents go out to the hospital, take care of other people all day, and their real, genuine, true concerns of, are my parents going to be okay? These are real, genuine concerns that these children have. And not just concerns that the children have, like these are real things. Like these are real possibilities that their parents could get sick. They could contract coronavirus. And as this video points out, the stories in the comic book are actual stories from their parents. I believe it's the Allegheny Health Organization, which is in Western Pennsylvania, right around Pittsburgh. These are a lot of the healthcare workers' stories that they have drawn inspiration from and drawn these comics from. Giancarlo, this is such a beautiful story. I don't know. I like real world heroes. Like, these are real, actual heroes put into comic book form. This is art imitating life. I think it's a beautiful thing. Where do you have you heard about this? Did you see the video? What's going on with you?
I just saw when you sent it to me. I'm a big comic book guy, and in the sense that I get comic books. It's still a weekly thing for me, even in times of the coronavirus. I don't know. I'm of two minds of this typically when it comes to stories like this. On the one hand, this is awesome, and it's great. And the fact that it's about real life people and their stories and what they've gone through, and it's also about healthcare workers, which are obviously like the people of the year in terms of this year specifically, never mind literally our entire history. It's amazing. And the fact that these families are going to kind of get this, people can collect this for comic book people, like these kind of one-off little kind of odd series that pop up here and there are fun for collectors. It makes me wonder how long this series will actually go for.
I'm
but
sure
on the
it'll have
other
a
hand,
limited run. I'm sure.
Yeah. On the other hand, sometimes I get skeptical with these things, just because it is. I don't know. I think on the one hand, there's a taste level that can sometimes go really off rails pretty quickly, depending on how they execute it. On the other hand, it is like a company. I don't know. There's definitely like a taste level for me that sometimes I get a little wary about.
I understand what you're talking about, and I think we saw a lot of this right after 9/11 when all these different movie studios started making movies about 9/11, and a lot of us had the knee-jerk reaction of like, whoa, too soon, you guys, way too soon.
Yeah, I think there's that. There's also just sometimes, I don't know, the comic book industry, there's room for every single type of story, obviously, but sometimes people are not, sometimes exactly what you said, the too soon thing, like people don't want to see this kind of stuff necessarily pop up in their media. And not that that's a valid reason to like not do it, but it just sometimes makes me wary of it and the intentions of it. It makes for a hell of a kind of press release.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sometimes I'm just wary of these types of things. But the fact that it's real stories, like, I think that's real cool. I always wonder why they don't obviously this is going to come out now, but how cool would it be if Marvel just made a comic series about healthcare workers that just happened and just was a running thing in their universe? Like, sometimes I feel like there's ways they could do this. Obviously, it's a matter of demand also. Like, the fact that this will be a limited kind of thing makes complete sense, because people will jump on it and collect it, and then that's how it'll kind of get. That's how most of these kinds of projects tend to go. But it's cool. It's cool. I don't know. There's only so much I can really kind of rail against it without sounding like a complete curmudgeon.
Well, especially like when we haven't been able to read it yet and like actually, hold it in our hands or even, get now the digital version is available right now on the Allegheny Health Network website. Marvel has made them available and I believe free for all to read. And
I think me, and I know this is something that's changed for me as I've kind of gotten older and applies to movies as well. Like, I can recognize that I may not be the target audience for this. And so really, who cares what my opinion is,
That's a concession that I often concede, especially anyone who's ever watched this show before, I love to hate on Billie Eilish. Oh, I love to hate on Billie Eilish, and I love to hate on Saturday Night Live. What's his name? Tall, skinny guy, Pete Davidson. Oh boy, I love to hate on those two. But again, it doesn't matter what my thoughts are, and B, I'm 38 years old. I'm from Western Pennsylvania. like, my opinions don't matter. The audience that those two artists, and I will actually call them artists because they are artists, the audience that those artists are targeting are not meant for me. They don't care about me. So it's like, who cares what 38 cis, whatever, like heterosexual white idiot over here thinks about Pete Davidson. It doesn't matter, right? But yeah, like these are concessions that I need to concede quite frequently. But the big question is, you guys, what do you think of Marvel's The Vitals comic book? Do you think it's too soon? Do you think it's too late? Is this something that you're interested in? Is this a cause that you might champion yourself? I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts are about this. Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know what those are. All right, guys, our next bit of news today comes to us from Variety, and as soon as the page loads, come on, page. I know you can do it. You can do it, Paige. Come on. Oh, man. Sorry, you guys. There it is. Margot Robbie. Da, 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 da. So Margot Robbie's production company, Lucky Chap, they just signed an exclusive first look deal with Amazon Studios, and specifically like for the distribution through Amazon Prime. So Lucky Chap, which is comprised of Margot Robbie and all of her collaborators. So here's a really cool thing about Lucky Chap. It started as a writing group where Margot Robbie brought a very specific group of talented women together to write their own projects. And I believe last month, it was reported that every single member of this group had at least one of their projects professionally picked up and produced by other networks or movie studios or whatever. Very, very successful group. And now they've turned it into an actual production company called Lucky Chap. And they have signed an exclusive first look deal with Amazon. Now, first look deals. What is a first look deal? First look deal means that Amazon gets the exclusive right to take or to pass on anything that comes out of Lucky Chap. Anything that comes out of Lucky Chap. So for the next, let's just say if they sign a 5-year deal, for the next 5 years. However, I have no idea how long this deal is for, but let's just say that for the next 5 years, if that's what the deal was for the next 5 years, anything that Lucky Chap comes out with, Amazon has the right to pick it up first. If Amazon passes, then they can shop it around to other places. But if Amazon likes what they have, yoink, ours. First dibs, that's all it is. That's all a first look deal is. They get to call first dibs. And this is huge. This is huge because Margot Robbie is one of the, and of course she's at the forefront of all this. Everything that Margot Robbie has done. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say everything that Margot Robbie's done has been executed with extreme care. I would even say, maybe that's a wrong word usage. I was gonna say prejudice, but I'm like, yeah, no, maybe that's not the right word there. Everything that she's worked on and collaborated with, she's put so much care and thought and detail into, and she makes really good work. She puts out some really great stuff. So to see that Margot Robbie has now signed in her production Lucky Chap, they've put out a really cool, it's not a groundbreaking deal over at Amazon, but I think this could really benefit them, especially she and her writing group and everyone associated. Giancarlo, you're hearing about this. What's your knee-jerk reaction, and what are some of the benefits do you think that we could see coming out of this exclusive deal with Amazon?
My kind of knee-jerk reaction, I don't know. I'm wary of these exclusivity kind of deals. just knee jerk. I'm a big kind of video game person also, and that's an industry where they're especially right now as these kind of new big consoles are coming out. There's a big focus on exclusivity and which consoles will get this. It operates kind of similar to how the kind of streaming studios kind of will get exclusive rights to things. And on the one hand, I don't know. Sometimes I don't. It's not the biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of it because it's just these big companies just kind of grabbing onto these things and holding onto them for themselves.
Now, if I can just jump in here for a quick second, in our live chat, I normally save live chat questions for the end and make it a segment all of its own. However, Carter O'Brien Ford, a mutual friend of ours, he's currently watching the show, and he just commented something about the first dibs thing of what I was referring to. And this feeds into what you were just talking about, Giancarlo, with kind of the hesitancy of signing these exclusive deals. He says Amazon, can also call first dibs, but then put it in a closet for no one to see.
Exactly. That kind of stuff I'm wary of. On the kind of flip side of it, this is the kind of stuff that I think really makes these streaming services kind of worth it, especially if we're moving towards this kind of future where everything's going to kind of be these streaming services, and these big companies will have kind of streaming services that they kind of pivot against each other. These are the kind of projects that will make having Amazon Prime as a service like more interesting, because you'll only get this on Amazon. And these kinds of projects popping up, if they do end up becoming something, kind of make these services more worthwhile, especially if you're somebody who is more likely to invest in just one streaming service versus like all of them or multiple ones. But I don't know. Yeah, those are kind of my two kind of takes on this. There's a little bit of a knee jerk, and then it's also what kind of flavors the streaming service, if they're good stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. Especially what you brought out as well as Carter. These are points that, when I hear about, I just go, yay, this sounds fun. But then realities tend to set in a little bit. I'm like, well, you make a good point.
And I mean, I think with Amazon, it's interesting because I think Amazon, more than some other companies this year in particular, there's been a real focus on it and kind of a reckoning with the public in a lot of ways as a company. But Amazon's also had some quality kind of streaming stuff. As a streaming service, they've already got some prestigious stuff on their kind of service, while other services are still kind of playing catch up in some regards. So it's interesting to see moving forward because they've already kind of established themselves as a streaming service.
Well, I mean, earlier we were talking about how streaming services don't release their numbers. Some numbers they do release. And one of the numbers that Netflix released in their 2019 review, I don't know what to call it. In 2019, in 2020, they released numbers about their 2019 year, which is to say that 70, or maybe it was 80%. Let's cut the difference. Let's say 75% of all the content streamed on Netflix is like previously owned content, or like catalog, library content. Mm-hmm. The Office, Frasier, Parks and Rec, like those, I'm just naming NBC shows, like all of their Friends, again, another NBC show. It's the comfortable content. It's the comfortable thing. It's not the original productions. I mean, we all love to sit here and say, yay, Stranger Things, greatest television show on Netflix ever. But it doesn't get the same type of response, or rather the original content doesn't get the same kind of response that the previously, like, what's the word that I'm looking for? When you have to pay some licensing fees.
Like It's almost like they're virtual, like digital
Yeah,
syndication.
that's exactly what it is. They're virtually syndicated shows. Um, but yeah, I mean, something like this with Margot Robbie, I think will be interesting to see, something to keep an eye on. Just kind of see where it goes. I mean, this could be awesome. This could be. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's going to be a shift in the way that production deals are made, because these types of deals happen all the time, but definitely something to be aware of and see what happens in the future. Big question is for you guys, what do you think of Margot Robbie signing, or not just Margot Robbie, but her production company, Lucky Chap, signing an exclusive deal with Amazon? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think it's good for them? Do you think it's bad for the consumer? Where do you sit? Jump on down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, we have one last bit of news to cover today. And again, it's not movie news per se. It's movie news. It's tangential movie news, I guess is what we can refer to it as. You guys, you know what my favorite movie of all time is. Say it with me. Da-na-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. That's right. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time. Jurassic Park. There's only one movie called Jurassic Park. Jurassic World was meh. Jurassic Park with the Lost World, meh. Jurassic World 3 doesn't even get a meh. And then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a complete pile of garbage. That movie's a complete pile of garbage. Believe it or not, Camp Cretaceous, the television show on Netflix, the animated children's show, which is meant for like 10-year-olds, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I had a fun ride with that TV show, and I'm kind of looking forward to the second season. I liked it. And I'm getting way off track here. You guys, Universal Studios Orlando has just released a first look to their Velocicoaster. This is not that. If you clicked on this video thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna get a first look at this ride," no, this is not that kind of video. Universal Studios put out like a 15-second trailer, a 10-second trailer about what the cars on the ride look like. It looks like a roller coaster, you guys. It looks like a roller coaster. Giancarlo, did you have a chance to see the video and what the roller coaster car looks like? It's like blue and gray.
I saw, yeah. It's a roller coaster car. These kinds of videos are always fun, kind of silly, but it's also like the main part of the ride in some respects. So I get it. And they also want to show this off. It's another thing that's so weird to think about in times of the coronavirus, but this stuff's so much fun. I lucked out and was able to, just before March and everything shut down, was able to go to Disneyland.
Oh, I remember.
It was such a surreal trip now in retrospect. And we were there and got like the full Disneyland experience. And Disney, I didn't even really think about it until we were there and afterward. But Disneyland is such a small park in retrospect that you can really have the full experience. So because of having that experience, I've been really into thinking about roller coasters and parks and all that stuff. I've been like really looking at Super Nintendo Land in Japan. But Jurassic Park is such a great vessel for a ride, just because the very nature of the movie is a ride. That this sounds awesome. Who wouldn't want to go on a Jurassic Park roller coaster?
Yeah, totally. And, you know, when I was watching this video and reading the description, they were kind of comparing. So there is like an audio element to this. If you watch the video, you'll see that on the seats themselves, on either side of the rider's head, you have two speakers. And so, of course, like, it's probably going to, be playing music, I would assume, and also probably some sound effects. Now, the description in this article talks about how, I guess the concept is that you're racing against raptors. It's kind of like, who's faster, you or the raptor? And being that this is not the world's, but Florida's fastest, tallest launching coaster, which there's a lot of qualifiers in there. First of all, it's a launching.
That's always a launching.
Yeah, it's a launching coaster. Second of all, it's Florida. It's being compared to other launching coasters in Florida. I guess it's the tallest, fastest launching coaster in Florida, which is a pretty, I assume it's a small hurdle to clear, because I'm a huge roller coaster aficionado. But yeah, so it's a small hurdle to clear. It looks very fun. Now, full disclosure, peeling the mask off for a moment. I have been to the Universal Parks during the pandemic. It is my assessment, it is my personal opinion that I don't necessarily recommend other people go to do it. Kim and I only decided to go if we could do it completely safely. If we thought that the risk was very, very minimum. And for the vast majority, I have another video on the channel, so go look it up. Maybe I'll post it in the description of this. We only first of all, yes, we only went if we could do it safely. And so we did our research. We talked to other people. Sorry?
Theoretically, like, it's one thing about going to a giant park, but if you're thinking about a roller coaster experience, theoretically, these things are pretty well built to do kind of the social distancing thing, considering the lines. I mean, really, I guess it's a matter of cleanliness with the actual roller coaster. But theoretically, I mean, I could see it working.
Well, again, I mean, it was, before you got on every single ride, doesn't matter what the ride was or the attraction, just before you get into the attraction or get on the ride, there's a ride operator who like spray pumps hand sanitizer, and I had my own, and they wouldn't let me use my own. I had to use theirs. So good on them for that, right? Where my negative feelings came in was that you can't stop people from social distancing, or sorry, you can't enforce social distancing. When you're in a line, you're in a line, and if somebody decides to get right up close to you, then that's what they're going to do. And there were a couple other nitpicks that I had. For the most part,
never mind that these are rides where people scream.
Keep your mask on. And for the most part, everybody was keeping their masks on. There was one ride. It was the Jurassic Park water slide ride thing, where you're like in the big whatever, you know what I'm talking about. They said, okay, everybody, if you want to take your masks off for this ride, you can. And by that time we were already in it and the ride was moving, and we're like, no. So I mean, like, there's a few things that I was like, meh. But I will say, we were able to go on the Hagrid's. It was a brand new coaster, Hagrid's motorbike, magical something or other. Wow, what a great ride. That was fantastic. And this Velocicoaster is being compared to the Hagrid motorbike ride. And if this Velociraptor roller coaster is anything like Hagrid's magical motorbike something or other, woof, I'm in it. Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about the visceral reaction people have when you or me watch horror movies, and I think roller coasters are kind of the exact same type of thing. It provokes such a visceral reaction when you actually ride them. That awesome, bring it on. More roller coasters.
I agree. And again, usually I keep comments to the end, but hey, we're pretty much at the end of the show, and we only have one comment that is directly about what we're talking about. Again, from Carter O'Brien Ford, again, former guest on the show. Carter says, ooh, Ooh, that looks like the best roller coaster car I've ever seen. I have a feeling you're saying that a little tongue-in-cheek, but you may be genuine. I don't know. He says, I bet the seats are comfy. Very well could be. There seems to be a little bit of cushioning there in the seats, but again, a promo video does not a good movie make, which that also transcribes to a good promo does not a good roller coaster make, right? So this roller coaster could completely suck the big one. But then again, it could be awesome. Who knows?
Yeah, I wonder what the actual ride looks like. Like, is it because it's one of these ones that just launches you and gets you going so fast and so far, apparently. A lot of those tend to be over super quickly. And it's more about the like, oh, we're here, and then we're suddenly skyrocketed super fast. But then you think of other roller coasters where there's a little more going on, like to give you more of an experience as you go through it. And I wonder what this will look like.
First of all, first one is King Ka at Six Flags, just in Jersey, where the closest theme park to New York. That's exactly the case, right? It shoots you off at 80 miles an hour. You go straight up, you go straight down, and then the ride's over. It's over in 15 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that. But the other thought that I have is, let me go back to Hagrid's magic motorbike ride, something or other. That ride had a lot of, and I'm not going to tell the secrets of the ride, but it had some pretty cool, interesting things that the ride itself does. And again, I'm not going to divulge any secrets, but the ride itself was thematically, it was beautiful.
That's always, I think when I was in Disneyland, there's this roller coaster called the Incredicoaster.
I love the Incredicoaster.
And it's such an experience. There's a story. They give you a little story, and it's set up, and it's so well done that those kinds of roller coasters, I think, are tremendous. But when you're thinking of roller coasters, it's really like the two experiences, like the ones that give you a full-on experience and are a little longer, and then the ones that kind of launch you and are done pretty quickly.
Even the Hulk coaster. If you've done the Hulk coaster in Universal, there is a little story to that as well. You know, you're waiting in line. You get the whole story of Bruce Banner gets hit with gamma rays and blah, 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 and now you are on the coaster being hit with gamma rays yourself, and you start going up the tunnel because there's like an enclosed kind of thing. You start going up the tunnel, then halfway through, the music kicks in, and you just you shoot off, and you go through the whole roller coaster experience, and it's fun. But anyway, you guys, we don't really have anything extraordinary to say about a Jurassic World Velocicoaster. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. What are your thoughts? Whatever they are, who knows? Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, jump down to the comment section below and let me know what those thoughts are. All right, guys, we have reached the end of the show. Normally, this is the part of the show where we take your live comments and questions. We have already read our live comments and questions today. So in that case, I'm just going to jump over and say, Giancarlo, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was a lot of fun. What projects and plugs? Is that Monster? Do you?
Monster.
Hi, Dana.
I'm not here. It's just Monster.
It's just Monster, she says.
Monster Kitty. Oh my gosh. Which actually brings up a great point. If you guys have an opportunity to adopt a pet, do it, because there are so many, like Monster, you guys adopted very recently, right?
Yep. He was a kitten in June when we got him, and now he's just this giant, big. He's a big boy now.
He's a full-blown cat. Yep. Giancarlo, what projects do you have coming up, and is there anything that you want to plug? Where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Osaben Kenobi. It's on screen. I'm a photographer. My website is go-photography.com.
And I'll put those links in the description below.
The main project I'm working on right now is called Survival. Just trying to kind of hold on throughout this. It's kind of crazy. It's been such a surreal year.
Wait, I have a question.
Oh,
Oh, Dana's
hi,
got a question.
Dana.
Do you guys, hi, no, don't show me. Do you guys know that has this cute T-shirt and then a onesie tied around his waist?
I'm wearing
You're
a onesie kind of cover.
So I knew about the Craven the Hunter T-shirt, but do you dare show us this onesie that is tied around your waist?
I'm just saying, like, it was like.
I don't know if you can
Sure
see it.
can.
Yeah,
I'm wearing it like.
But it's tied around his waist.
Like giant. Don't estimate the onesie in the times of the coronavirus. I will say that.
I have been wearing my turkey onesie. Predominantly, I think I wore it to go out on Thanksgiving Day to pick up our Thanksgiving dinner from Whole Foods. Went to Whole Foods dressed as a turkey. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Nice. You actually had the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I actually have something fun to plug myself. Giancarlo, your name escaped me for a moment. Mutual friend of ours is putting together a reading of an original play that she wrote. Ms. Leah Evans has written a production of Hungry Hungry Hippos, of which I will be playing one of the lead characters. Jack, I believe is his name. I should actually probably read the script at some point. But yeah, on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, 6:00 p.m., Eastern Standard Time. It will be live streamed on YouTube. The link is in the description below already. All of Giancarlo's links will be in the description of this video as well. So go ahead and check that out. Giancarlo, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us. Hope to have you back on again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun.
All right, guys. If you like this video, click like. If you really like this video, click subscribe. And if you really, really like this video, click share. Because that is exactly what the Velociraptor and Credicoaster would want you to do. Anyway, guys, my name is Mike Brown. I'm here all the time. This is Gotta Love Them Movies, your daily dose of movie news. We live in a weird, crazy world where everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, and sometimes those thoughts and opinions clash. So if you have an opportunity to infuse a little bit of kindness in the world, if you have an opportunity to speak kind words to each other, please take that opportunity. And in the words of Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other. I'll see you guys tomorrow.